If you're a wrestling fan and you've been really watching for a long time, maybe reading those dirt sheets, you've heard the term agent or producer attached to certain people backstage in WWE. And maybe for the more casual fan, you wonder, what the heck does a backstage producer or agent do? We've heard names like former pro wrestlers who had in-ring action like Jason Jordan, Tyson Kidd, Michael P.S. Hayes, and so many more being listed as agents for WWE matches. Names like Pete Dunne and Robert Roode have slowly been entering those same type of reports. It seems like a role tailor-made for wrestlers post their in-ring career, because it is. While many wrestling fans have a rough idea of what a producer does, most have no clue that they're basically the glue that keeps the show together. Let's get into it. This is Sportskeeda Wrestling. I'm Kevin. Let us know your thoughts on producers in wrestling and agents and veterans taking on new roles behind the scenes in the comments below. To give a rough outline of what a producer is known for, it's a role that seems to be the person in charge who's not in the ring in terms of a specific match or segment. They help wrestlers organize a match, give them an idea on what the story should be told bell to bell, ideas for big spots, and most importantly, craft the finish of the match within the pace of the performance. They serve as a middleman or mediators between the talent, the creative team, and the production team to make sure that everything is in sync. They're the main channel of communication between all of these parties at the same time. They convey the ideas from creative to talent while also providing feedback from talent back to creative. The backstage producers have to make sure that the matches and segments, those are the promos and interviews as well, are well timed and execute specifically on the time they are in a television show. And maintain directions from ringside as well with referees to plan out the spots in advance so that everything is paced. You notice how there's always some big moves right before a commercial break. Agents, producers, they're involved in all of those decisions, and their involvement can carry in a very, very big way. For example, let's take a random match you see on Monday Night Raw with little to no consequence that you can see on the surface. The producers meet with the talent throughout the day to find the time of the match that is allotted within what Raw will broadcast, the finish of the match, and coordinate with them the best plan to deliver on the orders handed down. On the other hand, the matches have high stakes and big storyline implications week to week. Producers have to sit down with the talent and explain everything with them start to finish that goes beyond just that specific week. Taking another example, let's look at many of the matches from last year involving the Bloodline. They were described as cinematic, and long-term booking had to be applied to them. And that isn't only because of what happened in the ring, but because of how they were planned outside of the ring. Some believe that pro wrestling is at its dramatic best when matches are tooled for starting, furthering, and ending a story with characters. And this is where the producers really have to go into the nitty-gritty of planning a match, because the consequences of it play into the next storyline, the next TV show, to keep fans hooked like a bass being reeled in from a lake. And in this case, these pro wrestling minds who are not in the ring instruct the superstars on those certain maneuvers, those certain elements to tell that specific story to incite the intended reaction they want, which is a live crowd going nuts and people losing their minds watching it at home and of course tweeting about it on social media. The reason this is needed is because it gives the characters more of a calculated flow of how a story will play out week to week as the characters developed over time. The basic term for this is ring psychology. Being able to teach a pro wrestler how to play into the psychology means that these producers also have the role of being mentors to younger superstars, and in some cases, recalibrating veteran talent as well. It's possible that for seasoned veterans like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Rey Mysterio, and others may only need to give a rundown of those psychological specifics and the story that's being told in the match. In other cases, they may contribute more. It's a case-by-case basis, especially with more established active in-ring talents. Based on some public knowledge, producers spend a lot more time developing talent who have less time in front of the four walls of WWE with TV, a live audience, and all the different metrics to deliver in the machine that never seems to end. And when they help wrestlers elicit reactions out of specific moments, it's a big part of the role, and they play a huge part in it. Most fans don't know how much work and strenuous travel goes in behind the scenes to elicit these memorable moments. And the unfortunate reality is that 100% of the credit really goes to the wrestlers in most cases. The producers are a part of those special moments. There were men and women that you don't see on camera that were there week to week to get a moment like Cody Rhodes taking the belt off Roman Reigns to feel so special with so many different moving elements involved. The role of former wrestlers becoming producers has been around the pro wrestling industry for quite some time. Decades ago, the bookers of promotions were the ones who took on this role of being the producers, doing every little detail of a show behind the scenes. But once veterans began retiring, some of them took over that role, which was much needed in the delegation of tasks and dealing with all the different talent with different storylines in the three-ring circuit of a pro wrestling show, especially one that's on TV. This specific spot is tailor-made for experienced veterans who understand how to listen to the crowd, but also know how to perform to the fan they can't see, those watching at home. Because of those people who know how to tell that story in the ring. An early example of a huge match being crafted was the WrestleMania 6 main event between Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. WWE legend Pat Patterson was responsible for producing the iconic bout bell to bell. Patterson was a huge reason why the match was a big hit, as it was the reason why it has stood the test of time with his precise pacing put into the performance. For those wondering why it was so special, context is key. Sure, there may have been a lot of WrestleMania matches in the years since that are maybe superior or whatever, but Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior at the time, yeah, how many have held up like that one? Not too many. The reason why is Hulk Hogan, who was a living legend already, couldn't just handle it all himself, and it's because there was bigger elements at play. Back in 1990, the idea of having a blockbuster main event between two good guys was extremely rare. And how do you protect both and make it still feel satisfying for both fans who have someone they're supporting in that performance? If there wasn't an experienced former wrestler like Pat Patterson to handle all of those things and how they play out start to finish, the chances of Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior being as memorable would have been slim. Being a producer isn't exactly an easy job. Yeah, it's not necessarily all it's chalked up to be, because there have been quite a few reported examples of situations where it's clear that the job isn't exactly always fun. Take Dustin Rhodes, for example, the man who many know as Goldust, the son of WWE Hall of Famer Dusty Rhodes, and yes, the brother of Cody Rhodes. In the early 2010s, he was looking to transition out of his in-ring career as a wrestler and get a job backstage as a producer in WWE. He revealed the pressure of the job in a talk with Inside the Ropes. At the time, producers also had to work their way up the ladder if they were green to that specific spot in the company, and they would get their start with the Divas, as they were called, the women of WWE at the time. Now imagine the pressure cooker that Dustin Rhodes is under with the headset on in the gorilla position right behind that curtain, and he could hear WWE boss Vince McMahon talking on the side. All of this at the same time, in real time, with very serious consequence. In this case, the Divas did the opposite of what Dustin Rhodes told them to do, and the match didn't exactly hit the mark. McMahon put him on blast, telling Dustin it was his fault not the performers in the match. And he knew then that the producer role may have not been for him in WWE, and he was maybe waiting to get let go from the company. That finally came in 2012 when, during a match, Yoshitatsu took a double powerbomb from Darren Young and Titus O'Neil. The way Yoshitatsu landed looked a lot worse on TV than it did in real life, and that's because Dustin Rhodes was the one producing the match. He was held responsible and reportedly was let go for it. It has a similar role in AEW, where these same type of people are referred to as coaches, and reportedly Dustin Rhodes is a lot happier being a coach in AEW. He revealed to Thunder Rosa, another member of the All Elite locker room, on her vlog that WWE's role for producers is far stricter and everybody needs to follow the orders without much wiggle room. In AEW, they're known as coaches, as we mentioned, and they kind of have the opportunity to really coach talent a lot more. Back in 2019, WWE Hall of Famer Arn Anderson's nearly 2-decade-long working relationship as a producer in WWE came to an end when he was overseeing a non-televised live event match where Alicia Fox reportedly was in the ring and may have been intoxicated. Brian Myers, who many of you know as Kurt Hawkins, described the role of a producer in WWE as thankless. In an interview with Busted Open Radio on SiriusXM, Myers reflected on his 2-month tenure as a backstage producer in WWE in 2018, back when he was injured and not an active in-ring competitor. Because of his trusted role in the company as a talent willing to make anyone look good, McMahon and others granted his request to try out as a producer. He got insight from both sides of the coin, and when it came to McMahon, he understood why McMahon got to where he was, while simultaneously wondering if his boss was insane. Myers said that the reason why it's a thankless job is because if a producer does something right, then it's just business as usual, on to the next. They're supposed to do that. But if they do something wrong, they get completely chewed out. This is just the machine of WWE as it stood at the time. We can only hope the culture of chewing out producers or talent has hopefully cooled off as of 2022, with obviously a new regime in place in WWE. If you look at the current roster of WWE's producers alone, you can see it's a spot of 100% reserved for just former wrestlers. Those people that know how to run the ropes, perform on camera. The producing role is also a very special one for those who dedicated their lives and bodies to the business, but simply due to injuries could not continue, like Jason Jordan and Tyson Kidd. They're still critical members of what you see on WWE every single day. So while the common fan may think it's just a process that's on the surface, Triple H is in charge, his writers write it, the talent goes out there and performs it, it's just not that simple, and it could evolve and change over time. More than just employment and a very good paycheck with the #1 wrestling company in the world, a producer in WWE and other televised companies have the opportunity for wrestlers to make an impact on the business with eyes that are outside of the ring. Just in time, they're there behind the curtain to provide that knowledge. In most cases, the producers working behind the scenes often have a bigger impact from a backstage role than they do maybe even in their in-ring roles when they were performing. So remember to give them credit for all the great stuff you're seeing on TV right now and everything you've seen before. Thank you for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below.